it's a tough row to hoe whichever way you go. Whether you try to raise the minimum wage or whether you try to organize a union, you're going to have stiff opposition.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
There was a report that came out last week showing that 40% of Alabama workers are making less than $15 an hour. That is wild. 40% of Alabama workers, that is 45 out of 52 states and territories. Love it. 61% of Hispanic workers, which puts us at 47 out of 52 states and territories, and 58% of black workers make less than $15 an hour. Raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour would benefit almost 1 million workers in Alabama, like directly. That's not to say anything for the people that would be indirectly benefit from the minimum wage being raised, because the salary for would have increased, so they'll get raises as well. And man, the minimum wage is really, as a topic of discussion, has really kind of, I think it's insane because everybody, most working people support raising the minimum wage from $7 an hour, which is, I mean, $7 an hour.
$7.25. I think it's how long it's been since 2009.
2009. Yeah, that was the last time. You know, like, everybody supports it, but for some reason, the people who run our country do not. And so, like, we just don't talk about that anymore. And so sometimes I do legitimately forget that, oh yeah, like, there are actually people that only make $7 an hour in this country still.
Less than that as a tipped wage.
Yes. Yeah, and we'll talk about that in the next segment.
Right.
But
the thing about Alabama, and I'm sorry if I'm stealing your thunder here, but Alabama made it illegal for cities to raise the minimum wage.
It did.
And if you cut back a few years ago, I was involved with the Raise the Wage Huntsville campaign, and we had Raise the Wage campaigns in Tuscaloosa and Mobile, Birmingham, really all the major metros in the state, and there were a lot of great people working on these, and we were making progress in a lot of areas, building a coalition, and, you know, it felt like just as soon as we were making progress and got momentum, the state legislature intervened. Birmingham passed a local minimum wage increase to $10.10 an hour, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, as soon as our movement was successful in one area, boom, that's all it took for the legislature to stamp that out. And oddly enough, then I was involved with the monument removal campaign, and the legislature did the same thing there.
Yeah.
To prevent cities and counties and other jurisdictions from removing Confederate monuments. So, you know, again, this is a common theme on here with Alabama politics, but they love to talk about small government in Montgomery. But anytime you actually try, they are happy to use the power of the state against cities and counties.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If you dare try to help people, that's all it will take. So, and by the way, for anyone keeping score, our illustrious mayor of Huntsville, Tear Gas Tommy, he was not a fan of raising the minimum wage.
Oh, no, of course not.
Now, at the time, that came as quite a shock to a few folks in the community, but
I don't think it would be as shocking now.
Probably not. No, it's he's shown his true colors more than once in the years since that campaign.
I mean, the law isn't the only way to raise wages for working people, and we talk about the other way to do that. You know, that's the whole show, right? But politicians stand in the way of working people organizing as well. So
Yeah.
it's a tough row to hoe whichever way you go, for sure. Whether you try to raise the minimum wage or whether you try to organize a union, you're going to have stiff opposition. And,
Right.
it's...
And I think now looking back on it, what I wish that we had done, those of us who were in the raise the wage movement, is just keep pushing and not let the state legislature, deflate us like they did. Because I think, hindsight's 20/20, but maybe if we had kept building this coalition, we could have gained ground in other ways, whether that's, reversing the law or getting cities to disobey the law, or maybe most importantly, actually
helping
leveraging that into organizing in workplaces,
right.
And building unions that secure those wages as opposed to governments.
Yeah, I mean, the places that people always point to with the highest minimum wages, like Norway and Denmark, and all these places that the minimum wage is like $22 an hour. They don't actually have a law that has a minimum wage. But the unions are so powerful that literally nobody in the country makes less than the equivalent of $22 an hour. And
guess what? You can still afford Big Macs.
Yeah, Big Macs over there are
that's the thing that we're supposed to believe, that if we don't have 896,000 desperate workers in Alabama working at poverty wages, starvation wages, that the rest of you won't be able to get your treats.
Right. Yeah, you weren't here for this, I don't think, but we had Stephen Robbins on. He's an immigration attorney talking about immigration one day, and we had a caller.
I remember that, actually. Yeah, I think maybe I was hanging out in the studio with you and David at the time. But
yeah, we had a caller say something about, like, maybe they shouldn't be deported, but what if the lettuce price increases? And it's like, no,
Bananas.
maybe it was
it bananas?
The bananas, and it was something like, oh, well, but if you give them more rights and they get paid more, then what's going to happen to the price of it? And it's like, okay, so for one, like, if that happens, like, we should...
We'll be all right.
We'll be all right, right? Like, if the price of cheap lettuce is that people have to be slaves, basically, then maybe I just shouldn't have cheap lettuce. Maybe that just shouldn't be a thing that we have in the country, right?
Yeah.
Like, if that's what it takes. But on the other hand, like, there's no evidence that that's what would actually happen.
Yeah, I mean, but it's an interesting thing that you brought up, because it does force us to think about the products that we consume, the services that we consume, and how much around us in our life, both necessities and luxuries, only exist because there are people being super exploited at starvation wages, or in dangerous conditions, or at the threat of deportation, or in many cases all of those and more. And that's not something that people like to think about. But it's something that we have to think about if we're going to address it, if we're going to change this, and certainly if we're going to build a better future that doesn't rely on that.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.